everyone. I'm Frank Mallicoat, an anchor reporter for KTVU Fox 2 here in the San Francisco Bay Area. My guest is Dr. Saniea Majid, a surgeon specializing in weight loss. She also runs a weight loss and wellness clinic in Livingston, New Jersey. She's here to talk about obesity and what our world can do to get a little bit better. Doctor, welcome. Good to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, let's talk about that obesity problem out of the gate. I did a little Googling, and apparently 42% of Americans are overweight. And that surprised me. Nearly half of us are overweight. That's a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been creeping into our social fabric for many years, and people have not been aware of it. So if you look at the statistics over the last 2 decades, obesity has been on the rise, and the word epidemic, pandemic has been used. And I think people before COVID did not have an appreciation of just the magnitude of the word pandemic. It affects so many people all across the world at the same time. So obesity has been that pandemic that has been creeping steadily, and the numbers are alarming. Like every time I go back and look at the CDC numbers, it just amazes me. So a problem is definitely an appropriate way to describe it,
I guess. And tell us, you layer a pandemic on an epic problem. How has that made it even worse? Because a lot of people are probably different eating habits. They're not getting exercise. They're sheltering in place. I would imagine it's gotten worse.
Absolutely. This year, obesity and COVID have had a relationship, more than one type. So obesity increases the risk of getting sick from COVID and even dying from COVID. So 77% of all the hospitalized patients in United States were obese. And one of the risk factors, like from a medical perspective, if you know there's an obese person with COVID, we are already extremely concerned because the chances of that patient getting really sick, needing to be on the ventilator, in the ICU, or even dying is much higher than, let's say, if that person's identical twin also had COVID but was not obese. So obesity is a significant risk factor. And then the second way obesity and COVID are like intertwined this year is a lot of people who were not suffering from obesity or weight issues in the beginning of the year are now suffering at the end of the year, which is a problem with the second wave. Because of the sedentary lifestyle, because of being trapped at home, because of being limited physical activities, people are gaining weight and contributing to those numbers.
And I would imagine, especially kids, because they're not running around, they're not gathering, they're not going to school. A lot of them are learning from home. How big a problem is it with children, obesity?
Huge. Even pre-COVID, 25% of our children, so 1 in 4 of our children pre-COVID, were overweight. And because obesity, now we look at obesity as a disease, not just the size of your clothes. Mm-hmm. So we know that the disease of obesity is progressive in nature. So every few years, the weight is going to go up and up. So if you're starting off with 1 in 4 children being overweight, you know what's going to happen when they become adolescents or adults. That number is only going to go up. And then when you overlap, what COVID has done this year has definitely driven those numbers up. Children are trapped. I'm a mother, and I see it firsthand, the struggles of parenting and then being a child in this time period. It's tough for them. You know, they're not allowed to do a lot of the things that what children would look forward to. And they're eating poorly. They are spending much more time in front of the tablets because of remote learning or something else, or allowing the parents to work because you've got to do something. And all of that is contributing towards overall pushing them away from wellness and definitely increasing their weight, no question.
And pandemic aside, if you're obese, it's a huge risk factor for heart disease, cancer. I mean, thinning your body and taking care of yourself has a lot to do with just staying healthy, period, right?
Exactly. And, you know, something as simple as feeling tired. I see it all the time from my patients. You know, we're just tired of always feeling tired. And that could just be the extra weight you're carrying on your skeleton. Like I tell people, fill up a backpack with extra 10 or 20 pounds and go up and down a flight of stairs. It's not going to be easy. So if you add on 10, 20 pounds and we start feeling tired and then sluggish, and that perpetuates the cycle, obviously that will feed into our overall being fatigued. And that definitely feeds into our ability to mentally deal with everything that life brings.
So you're a doctor and you do procedures that help alleviate obesity. When should a patient come in to see you as opposed to just making lifestyle changes, eating, exercising? When do you leave that portion and go, I need more help, and say get lap band surgery or something like that?
Yeah. So yes, I'm a surgeon. I'm also obesity medicine board certified. So I treat obesity from a medical perspective and surgical perspective, kind of a 360.
Mhm.
Also, really try to practice what is this data and research and scientific evidence tell us about this disease. So number one, we want to prevent it. And number two, we want to stop it in its progression because we know it's progressive. And number three, if people are severely obese, what do we do to help them? So I see a wide spectrum of people who need to lose 20 pounds versus they need to lose 200 pounds. And I invite every person to think about their struggles with their weight, not as a failure, not as a, oh, I just have to do this. I just have to work harder. We, as human beings, tend to kind always blame ourselves for this, and I think that's part of the problem because there's a component of denial. There's a component of being ashamed or embarrassed about talking about it, and what that does is it just perpetuates the problem.
Mhm.
And I say, as a medical professional, prevention is better than treatment. So let's help people when they only have to lose 10, 20 pounds, so they don't have to get to that 200-pound weight loss goal, for example. And if you are at that goal, if you're at that point, that's fine. There are ways to help you, and that's where the surgeon hat goes on. So I'm really excited about being able to help all kinds of people, young, old, families, etc. Because if we don't look at this as a disease that we need help for, we will never get out of this. Diets have been around for decades,
Right.
and they have not worked.
I want
Right? The obesity numbers keep going up. Even though with the most popular diets out there, with all the fancy bikes, with all the online YouTube, everything today is literally on our fingertips for lifestyle modification. But the reality is our obesity numbers are higher today than they were 5 years ago, than they were 10 years ago.
why is the U.S. is probably bigger than the rest of the world? Is that correct? And how come?
So I think a lot of it is, yes, US does lead the world with the obesity numbers. It's not alone. That's why we use the word pandemic. So it's global. It affects many different parts of the world. Um, a lot of it is you go back into the history. That's why I said that obesity has been creeping into our social fabric without us even realizing it. There was a time, and I guess just after Thanksgiving, this is an appropriate time to talk about it. There was a time when food And the abundance of food was considered a very important um, um, sign of success, right?
Right.
So the more food you have in front of you, the more you have an abundance of that, the less you have to worry about it. That means like you're successful. And people took the concept of giving thanks to how much can I eat, right? And that just happened without so seamlessly that we don't even raise our eyebrows on like, why would you get together and just eat all day? Like, when would that be a smart thing to do? Right? You should just eat enough. So I'm just giving an example of how our social and cultural history has led us to where we are. What has also confounded is the fast food trends. There are only 24 hours in a day. We put more and more on our plate. We have less and less time for food preparation, for things that require some extra time. So we want to have quick, really grab and go fast food options. They're usually not the healthiest. And we are eating really fast. We're watching TV, talking, driving, and eating. So we're not even allowing our bodies to understand the food. This is such a multifaceted problem. And I mean, I've been doing this for 10 years. So I see this up close in so many different shapes and forms. That, as I said, I can keep talking about it, but I think that there are a lot of reasons why we are where we are, and we need to kind of grab the bull with the horns and start unraveling some of this, and hopefully move in the right direction, because our future generation is being misguided by the way we are eating and drinking.
What are some of the medical options that you do with patients that can relieve that obesity problem?
Right. So we have a wide spectrum of tools, treatment options that are all FDA approved, studied, really researched and studied very, very well. The spectrum involves non-surgical options like weight loss medications, certain procedures like endoscopic balloons. We also offer help with certain devices, like, for example, taking care of your stubborn fat in certain parts of your body. And then, most importantly, we also have a huge support system for lifestyle modification. So we have several different programs that have integrated the how do you marry the mind, your mental approach to this, with your lifestyle, with your knowledge of food, and then how to put all of that together. Not give a sheet of what you're eating and what you're supposed to be eating or drinking. Um, uh, every time my patient asks me for that, I say, go to Dr. Google, right? There's a ton of diets out there, they don't work. So we try to customize it based on lifestyle modifications, and then have the same approach when the patient requires surgery. And the surgical options are sleeve gastrectomy, Roux-en-Y gastric bypass, duodenal switch. Tons of people who've had weight loss procedures done in the past, and for one reason or the other are struggling. We have a Back on Track program for those patients. And then we help them with whatever they need um, for their health at that time.
How satisfying is it for you to have someone that is obese come in, maybe 100 pounds overweight? You get them on a program, maybe you do some surgery, and you look 2, 3 years down the road and just see how successful, how this person, he or she, feels about life, about her family, about everything.
I don't have words to describe that. It's a huge privilege. It makes me, I mean, it's just, I'm very passionate about it. I think it's a huge privilege to be able to help people make that transformation. My decision to go into this really happened out of a patient driven support group where patients were just showing me their before and after pictures and how their life changed. I can bend down and tie my shoelaces. I participated in a marathon. I was able to walk down, like get off the wheelchair or walk down the aisle with my daughter. I mean, mind blowing. And as a physician, there's nothing that comes close to being able to make that change. And so that actually group, I was fortunate to experience that 11 years ago, and I've been doing this pretty much since. And you just cannot get enough of it. And you don't even have to wait 2 years. You see the effects in a matter of weeks, and you see the energy, and you see how they look. And the best thing about it is doesn't just stop at the weight or them getting rid of their diabetes medications or high blood pressure medications or getting rid of sleep apnea. I don't even go into the whole medical stuff because, I mean, that's boring for a lot of people. But they get rid of all of that. But most importantly, they'll do something different. I've got marathon runners as my patients. I've got people who had the guts to make career changes because now they have self-confidence. I've got young girls getting pregnant because they were struggling with that. Obesity is a very common cause of infertility. I've got younger, like adult teenagers, etc., who are making more confident decisions about their career choices, ability to stick through college, reach their potential because now they feel empowered and they have more self-confidence that they did not have before. So those are just that's like the fun part of what I do. So that's the why behind all of this. Right. And that's one of the reasons why I feel it's so important to spread the word. Most of the patients will say to me, I just wish I had done this sooner. Because I lost so many years of my life struggling with that. So
but the important thing is they did do it, and
yes,
now they're
absolutely
benefits from it, and it's pretty remarkable. How about some advice for some of our viewers out there that are, we got the holidays approaching, there's a lot of temptation both with food and alcohol and all that kind of stuff. What's advice to
them? So make a conscious effort to put yourself first. So I invite all my patients to look at this differently. We pay a lot of attention to what we are going to be wearing, let's say, from the outside. Put more attention to what you're going to put inside you. So put yourself first. Do not fall victim to whether it's marketing gimmicks from these big companies that are trying to sell you stuff, right? If you pay $1 more, you get double the amount. All you're doing is feeding them business. Put yourself first. So if you put yourself first and your health first, which if we have learned anything in this year is how valuable life is and how fragile it is, right? I was told by somebody that I knew, there was a physician in a community outreach educating people of how to prevent developing COVID, and 2 weeks later died of COVID. I mean, things change so quickly. You cannot take a day for granted. So I tell all my patients, put yourself first. And when you put yourself first, then the peer pressure of, oh, but why are you not having another drink? Or why are you not? No, I am going to be selfish about my health and the quality of food or anything that I put inside me. And I'm going to be very snobbish about it. I'm like, yes, do that. And then you feel good about how you have put yourself first, everything else will fall into place. There's a reason why we say we are what we eat, right? It's a very old saying. So then fast forward in the holiday time, when you want to spend time with your close family and hopefully just very close family, not large gatherings, you want to apply the same thing for your loved ones. So let's be selective as to what we're going to put on the table. Put healthy things. There are healthier alternatives for every recipe. Every recipe. You just have to look at it differently. So traditions are important. Family time is important. Food brings people together. That's very important. But let's be a little bit selective with what kind of food, the amount of food, and the quality. And then I think a great family activity is to get up and do something together that involves some physical
Right. Take a hike.
exercise.
Right.
Exactly. And you don't have to do anything very fancy.
Yeah. No.
Just get up and walk.
All right, I'm going to have a kale salad for lunch now. You have motivated me. And I don't like kale, but I eat it. I eat it. My other half is like, you got to have some of this stuff. I'm like, all right, all right. Although I'm pretty good. I'm one of those guys that would probably never knock on your door. I'm 60 years old and I weigh the same as
You look great.
the same as I did in college. So
I'm
I'm
proud of you.
yeah. Well, I still eat like a horse, but it doesn't hang on me. So if people want to get in touch with you, your health and wellness center, find out more about obesity, what do they do, doctor? How do they do that?
Very simple. Our website, weightlossandwellnesscenter.com, all spelled out. There's a lot of information there. They can request a consultation just by clicking through the website. Of course, they can email us at contact@weightlossandwellnesscenter.com. I kept it simple. It's long, but it's simple. And give us a call, 973-795-7955.
Well, that's awesome. Hey, I hope you have a great holiday. Hope your table's filled with very healthy food.
Excellent. And health.
And oh, yes, for sure.
Yeah.
That is Dr. Saniea Majid. She runs a health and wellness center out there in Livingston, New Jersey, also a surgeon. Some great insight on obesity and how we can live a happy, healthy life. Doctor, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Take care. Stay
All right.
safe. Bye.
Stay right there. I'm Frank Mallicoat. For more information, you can go to newsnowfox.com as well. Have a great day, everybody.